Hello everyone, this is Kiran, one of the Menlo Park vloggers. This will be my third and final vlog for this series. And in this video, I want to talk a bit about risk-taking and the difference between taking the easy option and the right option, which is something that as doctors we are confronted with every day. And I'm going to talk about specifically how we can grapple with this concept in the context of primary care. So the first point I want to talk about is actually palliative care and ceilings of care. So as part obviously of the role of a GP, or many GPs, work in care homes, nursing homes, looking after frail people, often towards the end of their life, and often elderly, but not always. One of the big things that needs to be discussed early in a patient's admission who is very frail is the escalation plan. And that's a decision that obviously should be discussed with the patient and their families. If the patient has capacity to make a decision, and the conversation would be beneficial to them. Now, the experience of many of the fantastic GPs who I've had the privilege to be trained by, they have found that having that conversation earlier is better than doing it at the last minute in a time of crisis. And that, to me, makes complete sense. So controlling the narrative early and discussing these things early, even if the outcome that is reached is unclear or there's some possible disagreement, at least the seed has been planted and it doesn't lead to a very rushed and ultimately traumatic experience for the family. And I think the key to all of this is that when it's in the conversation, whatever decision gets made, the family will not feel like they have had to make the wrong decision, because we as healthcare professionals can say, we are guiding this, we want to hear your view. Obviously, your say is the most important. That being said, it's not on you. We're the ones that are taking on this risk for you. And I suppose that really sums up the easy versus the easy option versus the right option. The easy option is to put it off, put it off, put it off, because it can be uncomfortable and difficult to talk about these things. And I suppose it can feel like you're exposing yourself to unnecessary attention and liability, when in fact, actually, this is an insurance against possible displeasure and upset on the part of the family and their relatives. Because obviously, a large part of dying is for the patient and ensuring they have a as peaceful end to their life as possible. But actually, a big part of it is about the family, and they're the ones that have to live on afterwards. So having a good death is much more than just the patient. It becomes very much almost a public health thing, because the perspective of death in society will be governed by the way that we as healthcare professionals discuss it. Particularly, this should be done in primary care, where we ideally should know the patients and their families and they feel comfortable with us, rather than a poor medical SHO on a ward when it's really far too late to do anything, and the conversation will be rushed and hurried in the middle of the night. So I suppose that nicely sums up that point of doing what is right early will actually save us time further down the line. And linked to that is the idea of positive risk taking. Taking the risk of having the conversation early actually will pay off, in the same way that holding on to risk is the unique trait of a GP, and one of the many unique traits. But being comfortable with risk is the main reason that I would advise some doctors to not consider GP. It is the hardest thing to teach, and the thing that one has to be most comfortable with if they're going to succeed as a GP, in my view. That being comfortable with the uncertainty and knowing that you are playing with risky games, and you will drop balls and mistakes will be made, but knowing that that is just because we are humans in a system that isn't perfect. And actually, it is our role to be comfortable with that uncertainty. And if we're unable to, that's fine. There are so many wonderful specialties, or even aspects of GP, that don't require that. But the clinical bread and butter of the job is about proactive risk taking. And I think that is linked to this idea of palliative care and having the discussions around that early. Thank you very much for listening. I hope these videos have been helpful. And yeah, all the very best for all of your future careers. Thank you very much. Take care.